your friend, you'll end up on a blog scene. All right, so let's jump into the news real quick. This one actually, I remember in 2014, I saw a movie that we reviewed a movie that was deep, touched me in a lot of ways. Touched you. This was like a college experience. Dear White People. And had a lot of good stuff to say, had a lot of positivity. And White People did this job with us. It changed Adam's life.
Yeah. Yep. Sure did.
And ruined Adam's life.
Forever.
But no, it was very emotional. It was very deep, and actually spoke to a lot of people, and was very popular to the point where it eventually got not syndicated. It's got a crowdfunded TV show. They were trying to
basically, a lot of people enjoyed this thing. They liked the message. And they got behind it. And
a book came out to it. I got the companion book. It was me. I can't remember the guy's name. The last name begins with an S. Jordan's something. I'm drawing a blank. But the guy who actually wrote the script, he blew up. So you're right. I mean, a lot of people took this story.
Yeah, a lot of people backed this thing, and then obviously we're talking about Netflix has got behind this thing and try to do a show, and we're talking about a Dear White People show, and because it's 2017, everyone has to have a problem about something.
New regime.
Everyone has to be upset. Everyone has to be heard. Everyone has to make a statement. Everyone has to have, because of this, and this is where we're at, and because it has a title like Dear White People. A lot of weird, the fringe white people have come out and said, maybe this is discriminatory. Maybe this is inspiring white genocide. Is what people said. Yes, of course. The poor white people have been beaten up their whole life and have really had a hard time growing up in these certain neighborhoods. It's just absolute BS. And this is coming from a 30-year-old white male, by the way. And let me just put it out there that we all need to just take a step back and just realize everything's going to be okay. We're okay. You know what I mean? It's gonna be fine. You know what I mean? Like whether if you find something,
you're a rational human being.
Right.
See this from a logical perspective.
I mean, I don't think Ted Treadstone.
Ted Treadstone.
He's not gonna be too happy about that. He is not co-signing.
There's a lot of people that aren't too happy about a lot of things. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah,
you're white. You're white, and I'm sorry, and make that point, but it's like you're white at the end of the day. You're gonna be okay. Like nothing has ever been. You've never been oppressed. You've never been you never had to go into a job interview thinking well, I'm white. I gotta go into this and thinking this. And, you know what I mean?
Wait, pause right there. You don't know if they're ginger.
Right.
I haven't worked against them. Now, the new story we're talking about is Dear White People has been crowdfunded and approved to run on Netflix. Now, with the announcement of that recently and running the first trailer, certain audiences have decided to boycott the show and outright cancel their Netflix accounts.
Well, people are trying to boycott everything nowadays. It's like everything is led to a boycott. Everything. The issue is everything is politicized nowadays. Everything is politicized. No matter what you do, no matter what you're trying to enjoy, has to have a political backing. Even the Super Bowl, everyone's trying to be like, well, this is a political thing now because Tom Brady is a Trump supporter or whatever like that. Everything has to be a political thing.
I mean, not even just
when I was younger,
the Super Bowl commercials, man. I mean, the day before the Super Bowl, they were showing two commercials primarily, and they're like, "Oh, these are political commercials." I'm like, I never really watched Super Bowl.
But everything has a political backing to it. Everything has
Mackenzie's leading.
Right. It's like everything has to have this you're choosing sides type of thing to it, like that. And honestly, art and anything, even mass consumed culture was not politicized this way, and everything's just so geared towards you're choosing one side, you're choosing the other, and it's really a frightening time. And to be honest with you, even this I'm on the extreme side for this is supremely stupid. This is really ridiculous, but it shouldn't be that way. It should not be that way. You know what I mean? You shouldn't have to choose sides just because you're choosing a brand of soap. You know what I mean? Like this is not how we should. This is not how politics should work.
He's not lying, because I had a bunch of friends of mine who gave up Uber. I'm like, forget you.
Right.
I'm married to Uber. I'm not giving it up.
Right. And they have a point too. You know what I mean? Everyone does. But
it's like, oh, I'm using Lyft now. I'm like, no, I'm married to Uber. You got my bank. You got my personal bank account. You got my business bank account. I'm not giving you up. But I mean, I know I got a lot of friends who are gonna stop being friends with me because I just own them to the fact that I'm not giving up Uber.
Right.
Just because that was the CEO sat on this commission that he stepped down from now.
And you're seeing things with like.
I can understand, but sometimes people just want a mustache.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
And you're seeing things with like Under Armour. You know what I mean? The CEO of Under Armour came out and said he was like, you know, I think Trump could be an asset. And then Steph Curry, one of Under Armour's biggest, athletes that they're sponsoring music. Yeah, asset if you remove the ET. You know what I mean? He's an ass. You know what I mean? But then it suddenly becomes this politicized thing that you really never had any. You know, it was never that way. But
well, the biggest awkward point of this, that's what's actually caused to pick up juices on Twitter. This dude you mentioned, Tim Treadstone. Now he's a former BuzzFeed writer.
Yeah.
Who's now a very outspoken member and is being kind of the spokesperson for the Twitter mob.
He's not the one who got
alt-right.
He's not the one who got punched in the side of the face, right?
No,
that's
some other motherfucker.
Scott Storch.
Yeah.
Spencer. That was Spencer.
Yeah.
Richard Spencer.
God forbid that guy get punched in the face.
That joke got socked in the face. I'm sorry, Pete. Go ahead.
No, okay. That was Morgan Spurlock.
No, I love Morgan Spurlock, dude.
Stop.
All right.
Now I just want a Big Mac.
No, Spencer Tracy. No, this dude, Tim Treadstone, a former BuzzFeed writer and outspoken member of the alt-right Twitter mob, he's argued that Dear White People is promoting quote-unquote white genocide.
Right.
And encouraging
because that's an actual threat these days.
Well, the whole thing is anything you say that seems to be against their basically platform of hatred.
Right.
Is automatic. Oh, you're against the white people in our progression of stuff. It's like, what are you talking about?
No, like I said, it's like at the end of the day, we're fine. Stop.
Yeah,
stop. This has been going on for a while. Like we're okay. We're okay. You know what I mean? We got stuff. You know what I mean? And if we don't, we're fine. You know what I mean? It's a very troubling time where people feel they need to grasp on top of these really obvious signs of like this racist kind of propaganda and being like, well, maybe they are coming
this kind of victimization complex that they have,
right? Because we've never had a history of being like, well, we've had a long history of being brought down and we have a lot of trouble. It's like that's never happened.
Yeah, that's
never been a thing. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden coming out now and being like, I need to express this voice of being, Well,
I'm reminded of the first 10 minutes of American History X, the movie, with Ed Norton, with Eddie
you took the teeth on the curb. Was that the first 10 minutes?
No.
Well, yes, but not that part. I'm talking about the motivation for all that. The father's speech, where he's basically laying out at the dinner table. Just
you're right, and you can see where it's birthed from. You're right.
Yeah, everything that was enacted as a means of getting more fair treatment for minority groups that actually were downtrodden, that actually were oppressed, being seen by the ones that were doing the oppressing as, they're just trying to take what's ours, what we've already got. It's like, no, you're just denying them what should be given to everybody, like, fairly, people should have job opportunities. People should have opportunities to live in, good communities, to have resources that aren't polluted, that aren't, like lower tier. And this isn't people infringing on you.
Right.
This is you allowing them, what you've always had.
A place, you know what I mean? And it's tough as, obviously, being a white male to speak on what I think white privilege is. And what I think it is the luxury to disregard walking into a room and not having to think about race.
Mm-hmm.
Where, because I'm white, I can walk into any single room ever in my entire life and not have to think, well, I'm the only white person here. Or I'm white at all. You know what I mean? Like that it's the luxury to disregard the fact that I am a white male. I just am. You know what I mean? Whereas it might not be the same for any other human being of any color. You know what I mean? Like
or
where they would walk in or thinking like, well,
but
I am the minority here. Like I've never thought that I am the minority here and like this, and this might be an issue.
But the fact that you're aware of that is something I think that guys like this have never actually had that conscious thought.
Right.
And I don't want.
And that's what white privilege is, that they don't have to. You know what I mean? So a lot of people don't think that way, where it's just like, this is something that's an absolute fact.
Yeah, and the dumbness of the story is this is all coming from the trailer. They're making a show called Dear White People. Oh my God, we're so oppressed. Those,
which is a funny movie because it's just showing out how to not be a douchebag in public when you're a white guy. It really is. It should be a step-by-step guide. You know what I mean? And it's just a funny thing, and that it became a publicized thing, and that be a politicized thing. Is really what we're going to take it now, and it's really upsetting.
I'm not surprised whatsoever, though. I mean, it's the same rhetoric that we've been hearing. I mean, I think at this point, it's just that we have social media and the ability to be able to hear it out in public. Because, I mean, these conversations happen all the time. I remember when I was an undergrad, 15 years ago, where it was like, why do we need to have a Black History Month? We should have a White History Month. It's the same sort of rhetoric. It's just that now we have Twitter or Facebook, so people just spew it on there. You're able to gather the masses. So
and you don't have to filter through anything. You don't have to be next to somebody that might differ from you. You can just put it out there.
You have to wait till after hours.
And that's the thing. Like, everyone should have an opinion.
Well,
that's not true
people
either.
Start to inject it in places where I don't think it necessarily existed. One of the comments we just got was about people adding to the Grammys, saying that it came down to Beyonce and Adele,
right?
And that whole thing,
and it became a white versus black thing. Everything is a race thing. Everything is like a Trump versus the Democrat thing. It's just like everything is a politicized move. Mm-hmm. And it never was that way. Maybe it was, and it's just now it's so like in your face, where it's like you almost have to consciously like decide, I'm making this choice, and it has this effect, and I'm gonna have to stick by this forever because this is gonna be something that I'm gonna have to defend. Yeah. I used to never have to defend any choice I made. You know what I mean? Like that, but just because I liked somebody, like I liked this band. Now you have to defend it 20 years later because, like, maybe they were,
Dude, okay. Okay. Not to harp on this too much longer. Just a quick personal example I can add here, and then I guess we'll move on. But Jay, you and I are metal fans.
Yes.
We discovered this like a long time ago, and it was kind of like, what word, really? And we're also black people. Yeah. Which is why it's a surprise.
Which is why it is a surprise. Yeah.
Yes, from the inner city. But I mentioned this because I remember when I first found this out. I remember very specifically when I found this out. We were riding in the car with your boy Tosin.
Yeah.
And I had a mixtape, and I was playing some hip hop, and when that side ran out, we were like, okay, flip it. And it was like, what's on there? And I was like, y'all don't want to hear that, just some metal stuff. And y'all like, what? And we bonded over Seven Dust.
Yes.
But I remember very specifically because
that's a black lead singer, isn't it, dude?
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't just a metal band. We couldn't just listen to metal. It had to have a stipulation. It was it's a metal band with black folks involved. There's that extra bit, and that's why we had to legitimize it some way. We had to we had to come to light. But there had to be something that was interjected to make it okay. Yeah. And that's
that's an interesting thing too. There was a good article I read a little while ago, and it was about white people listening to hip hop, and really enjoying hip hop. But at the same time, their political views were so against everything they were really supporting, based on their taste. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're listening to certain brands of hip hop, and then all of a sudden you were like writing something really ridiculous on Facebook about blah blah blah. Yeah. And you're just like, well, your taste aligns here, and your views aligned here. Like, there's no connection there. So it's just like, what do you actually stand for?
See,
it's like, how do you believe this people, and then listen to this? Because they're not the same.
Yeah, it sometimes makes people force an issue. Just because they're compelled. It's like this wasn't originally their standpoint, but it adds that stipulation. It's like you can't this without something backing.
I think honestly, if you come up with a serious issue and you ask somebody what they believe, they would be searching for an answer because they actually haven't thought about it. Yeah. And I think it's just like, well, what do you think about this? To be like, well, let me just kind of come up with something and then give you an answer. But they actually haven't thought deeply enough about the issue.
And you know what you get then?
To give you an answer.
You get a-holes like this Tim Trebstone character overreact. Delete your Netflix, boycott the so-and-so because the Negroes are coming to get us. Like, you'll
By the way, it's okay not to have an opinion. it's okay to just to go like, hey, I don't know enough about the subject. Or like, let me just pass.
But then you're
it's
weak.
okay.
But then you're weak. Though.
You're right. You're right.
I mean,
It's but that's the same. At the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with saying like I'm not educated enough on what I'm speaking about, because I would not want to be standing by an opinion I had at one point when I wasn't educated enough on it, and then be like, well, 10 years later, like, well, you said this. We're like, well, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I was like, well, maybe you should have said something, because now you have to defend that.
Yeah.
So maybe at the end of the day, one, we should either educate ourselves a little bit more before we speak, or just not speak. I think that's
I could
where
say better myself.
Adam Willis dropping the knowledge.
Yeah.
Bro, seriously.
Here we go.
All right. Well, thank you. Basically, what we're saying is, Treadstone, you can sit and spin.
Yeah, and this show that's Dear White People that's coming on Netflix, just watch it, man. It's gonna be good.
Yeah,
it's gonna be
awesome. I have high hopes for the show.
Right.
And I have high hopes that Treadstone will get punched in the face by somebody.
Oh yes, please. Give him the full Spencer.
Yeah.
I want to coin that.
That video is so good. At that.
I think they coined it.
Yeah. Man, the full Spencer. Remix it too.
He punched him, and he freaking pulled him about face so fast. Punched him, turned, broke out.
Yeah.
What?
I feel like it was choreographed.
If you blinked, you missed it. You know, but he sure felt.
But you watched it 30 more
man?
times. So
I saw this Vine where they were just looping him being punched in the face to Born in the USA. And I'm like, what's more American than punching Nazis?
Punching Nazis is okay on this show, by the way.
Absolutely.
In case you were, in case you were wondering about the argument, is it okay to punch Nazis in the face? On this show, it's fine.
Absolutely.
We'll be happy to invite any Nazis on this show too, because I'll be happy to punch them in the face.
Geek Down highly endorses punching Nazis.
Right. Exactly.
We each have our preferred areas. Adam prefers the temple. I prefer the throat myself. No. All right. Now moving on. Okay.